I'd like to give you a quick explanation of this reading process handout because sometimes you see a handout and you're like, oh, okay, and then you read the quiz and then you're like, okay, well, I might not have done well on that quiz. So hopefully this little mini lesson will help bridge those gaps for you. And I definitely encourage you to come to our live session to go over this in more detail. So the reading process is basically the process in which you take to be an effective reader. And this is something that I'm really going to be referring to all semester. And if you follow this process as you're reading, you're going to have a better chance of doing well in the assignments and understanding what we're doing in the class. And in addition to this, you'll see a study guide in the next assignment that I really encourage you to hold on to. So keep this handout and keep the study guide handout because basically between this and the study guide on the next assignment, you're going to really see a skeleton of how this class is structured and what you'll be asked every single time. Okay, so it really should become a routine for you by the time we get done with the school year. So as you're reading your information, whether it be a nonfiction text or whether it's a story, you should follow this. First thing you need to do is make some initial observations. You need to think about what type of text this is, what form does it take, and what features do you notice. If you're not quite sure what types of text there are or what I mean by what form does it take, click these lovely links that are in the classroom, and each one of these is going to take you to an explanation of different types of text, different forms of text, what different types of texts, what features do you notice. Okay, so that way you can start making those initial observations. Then, after you read it, kind of summarize, or as you're going paragraph by paragraph, summarize what you're reading. Some of the stuff in this class is super thick. It's very complex, and if you read all through without stopping and thinking, you're not going to get it all. It's just that plain and simple. You could be the best student on the planet, but if you don't stop and think about what you're reading in this class, as you're going through, you're going to miss some important details. So think about the main ideas of each paragraph or each section. And it could just be a quick, like, okay, that was what that was about, and move on. It doesn't have to be something complex. This is really for you to start just getting that process. And next, you're going to ask yourself, okay, what was the big picture about the text? Okay, who was this for? Who was the target audience? And then what is the author's purpose? Why did the author write this? Okay, so now you understand what you kind of like, you can tell me what the story is about. Now let's think about who the audience is, why the author wrote it, and then after we figure out why the author wrote it, you know, what was the theme of the text, or what was the position of a persuasive argument? Okay, so what was the big idea that was provided there? And then once you are able to establish that, you can analyze the text. You know, notice the rhetoric. You know, language. If you don't know what net rhetoric means, that one's a difficult one. Here's a page on rhetorical devices. Okay. And think about the author's choices. Think about how the author is introducing this information and when and why. Okay? And finally, connect to it. Okay? Most texts can be connected to on a personal level, on an academic level. So think about how this text is relevant to the world around you, because it is in one way or another. You can connect to it personally, you can connect to it socially, but there's definitely different ways that you can connect with the text. If you do this every time, you should be in good standing, okay? Then I'm also going to have you refer to the levels of understanding. Level 1, like, you can tell if you truly understand a text if you can get to level 3. If you hit that level 1, I can like summarize the main ideas. I can provide textual evidence to support my summary and understanding. Okay, so you understood what the text is about and what it was being said, but that's a very basic level. All right. Level 2 is when you're finally getting to the meat of your text, okay? You can identify the theme. What was that big message of the text? You can explain the meaning of the figurative language or the rhetorical devices that are used in it. Can you find a symbol? Can you find an example of onomatopoeia? I love that word. So think about that. And finally, can you provide textual evidence to support my understanding? So, okay, where is this example of onomatopoeia within the text? Here it is. So being able to find that textual evidence to support that term, that's that next level. But if you really want to nail it, if you want to really prove that you understand the text, you're getting to level 3 now. Can you identify the attentive audience based on those textual details? Like what parts of the text show you that it's meant for that person? Can you identify the author's purpose and tone? Okay, like what words do they use to establish that tone? Can you identify them? And then consider the impact that language has on the target audience. And can you assess the effectiveness of the author's choices for how to develop or construct the text? So, as you're going through this, it is a hard process, but it's one that you can achieve. And yes, chances are when you graduate from high school, you're probably not going to major in British literature, which is totally fine. But I'm teaching you a process here that can take you through the rest of your life, whether you go into science or if you go into business. You have to be able to go into these complex texts because trust me, a business degree has a lot of complicated text into it. So does a science degree. So if you're able to think about and analyze those difficult texts because of the process you learned here, then I've done my job. So that is why we're going to be going over this reading process a lot and going through this complex test, because if you can analyze this, you can analyze anything. And I want you to remember, when you are going through this text, if you are struggling to understand a text, it's not because the text is difficult, it's because we need to help you analyze. And that is what I'm hoping to teach you this week and throughout the rest of the semester. So I look forward to seeing you in class this week. And if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks, guys.